Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. What is your favorite Bible story, and why is it your favorite? I ask that question rather frequently and always enjoy hearing from people about their favorite story and what it means to them. Often I have to consider what my favorite story is, and I'll have to admit mine changes from time to time. But my favorite right now is the one I've held as my favorite for at least the last 10 years. It's the story of Jesus appearing to those two disciples on the way to Emmaus. This week we are exploring some of the people who are part of the Easter story who fade into the shadows because of the bright light of focus on Jesus. Today we want to look at that story of those two believers going to Emmaus on that first Easter day. Perhaps the first thing to note is that no one really knows where Emmaus was. The location of the city has been lost to time, but most scholars believe it was 6 or 7 miles from Jerusalem. The two believers were on the way there, and one of them is named Cleopas, and the other one is unnamed. They were discussing the events of Holy Week leading to Jesus' death and how the women had shown up that morning with an amazing story that Jesus had risen. As they were discussing this, a stranger joined with them. Eventually they asked him to stay, and as they were preparing to eat, the stranger took bread, blessed it, and broke it. And suddenly their eyes were opened, and they realized that it was the risen Jesus himself among them. Jesus disappeared, but the two disciples got up and ran back to Jerusalem to tell the others. We really don't know anything else about Cleopas and the other unnamed disciple. However, many of us often think that Jesus had only 12 close followers, and then suddenly we have these two as well. That might indicate to us that there were others who followed Jesus devoutly beyond the 12. And that might mean that Jesus' followers could extend beyond the 12, and we might even consider ourselves followers of Jesus like those disciples too. Another thought that comes to mind is that so often our eyes are so full of our own expectations and ideas that we are blind to see Jesus at work all around us. Some see in this story that the physical appearance of the risen Jesus had changed somehow. And that may be so, but still, far too often we aren't expecting to see Jesus right in the midst of our lives. Perhaps we should be more intent about looking for him. There's a lot we can draw from this story, but for today I'll mention only one more. Jesus became known in the breaking of the bread. For many of us, communion is one of the places where we see Jesus most clearly. I think many of us miss one of the most dramatic moments in our worship. It's after we have shared the peace and we sit down while the ushers bring the offering plates to pass in the pews, and meanwhile the choir sings the anthem. We are often so busy with all this during that time that we fail to notice what is happening at the altar. Here at Redeemer, the pastor who will preside at communion goes behind the altar and lifts the veil that covers the communion elements and prepares the meal. Let me put it another way. In that moment, Jesus among us is revealed. His body and blood for us, which had been hidden and veiled from our eyes, is suddenly unveiled. Our eyes are opened to the gift there before us. And in just moments, explicitly, Jesus will be made known in the breaking of the bread. Maybe that disciple other than Cleopas is unnamed for a reason. Maybe the invitation is to put ourselves in that place. Maybe we are invited to see Jesus among us, now and always. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.